Welcome back. Yes, indeed. Those are some of the issues we'll be focusing on this morning. And Professor Okeke-Chukwu, as you've seen, that joins us here in the studios. He's the Executive Director of Development Specs Academy. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
You know, when they say a lot rises and falls with leadership, yeah, you could see that. I mean, if you look through today, I had the Senate talking about the previous government printing up money. Then you talk about security, the challenges we face there. And then even yesterday at that Obafemi Awolowo Awards, you see in that hall, you see the quality of personnel that were there. And many just wonder, they just wish if the question then arose about, yes, whatever they think about our politics, but many still think that we could do way better than we are in terms of first, perhaps strengthening our leadership recruitment process. So ensuring that if we get that process right, the process itself, I think it will be a springboard to many things. But your general assessment, first and foremost, of some of these calls about the need for us to get it right.
Well, first is anchored around Chief Obafemi Awolowo, one of Nigeria's greatest leaders. Yes, people have said our was about focus, integrity, and the rest of it. No. Chief Obafemi Awolowo was first of all about knowledge. That's the first thing on which I would try to rest anything he tried to do. So even when you're talking about his politics, it's based on his understanding of the role of leadership. So knowledge is the first thing. You talk about leadership recruitment. Back then and with that generation, there was always a conscious recruitment process. You look at the young ones. The way I'm looking at Okeke-Chukwu, he's focused, he's intelligent, but he's young and a little temperamental. So let's give him responsibilities instrumentally. We know he will make these mistakes. We'll watch him and guide him them. I think in the next 7 years, he's the kind of person who will be party secretary. That's leadership recruitment. Now, that's what's not happening, because what you have today are PAs and SAs who have no real schedule. If I'm your special assistant, Chamberlain, my job is very likely that of carrying your bag. When you come out, I greet you. If we go anywhere, I run ahead in front of you, panting as if we're chasing a dog. Meanwhile, we're just going to say hello to my friend.
Is it that is the way those who appoint them want it to be, or the people they appoint just make it like that?
Even if it's the people as their boss, shouldn't you tell them what to do? The truth we must admit is that the quality of persons who have come to the highest level of national leadership has declined very conspicuously over the last 3-4 decades. When I say declined, people who ordinarily wouldn't run errand in the era of the stature of the Awolowos, the Ahmadu Bellos and Zeeks, people who stay in the periphery are the ones in the interior. And so that has affected every other thing. That's why I will not be embarrassed to have a certain amount of money after being in public office for 2 years, building a 500 million naira house in my village. And the people knew that 4 years ago I couldn't repair my motorcycle. And then my uncles won't ask me questions. My pastor, Imam, won't say, "Come, my son, what is this?" So the pillars have collapsed. So it's not about, it's a complete and sustained degeneration. One, of the quality of leadership. Two, of the concept of service delivery in public office. And three, the notion of national unity.
I mean, I wanted to be able to talk about that issue. Is this you really hit the nail on the head, you know, because this is something that we've seen happen over the years, and it became acceptable, this degeneration in the thought processes of people who are in power, even the thought process of people in Nigeria. What can be done to change this orientation? That whole concept of essays, carrying bags and running and panting, meanwhile it's a normal thing. We've seen more embarrassing situations. The one that many Nigerians will talk about right now, you will travel with a group of people. They will come down from the airplane and all stand in line to welcome you.
Yes.
And you were on the plane with them. It's one of the strangest things I've ever seen. How do we get Nigerians to think differently and change this mindset and be able to focus on accountability on the part of our leaders?
You see, everybody must begin where he is. You know, usually when we talk about change, we expect some radical transformation at the superstructural level. First, everybody start where you are. But those in leadership must set the right paradigms. If you recall, there was this trip the president made to Lagos. I think his convoy was nearly 300 kilometers. People reacted. In less than 1 week, there was a pronouncement. Now, that kind of thing is reassuring, if you ask me. And he now said, okay, no minister will travel with this number. If that sort of thing is mentioned and enforced, it will begin to set new paradigms. But let's not forget the crisis we've walked into with our eyes wide open. In the last 20 years of democracy, we've seen initially one of the greatest shocks some of us had in 2002 was when a governor appointed 800 special assistants. Now, in the last 3-4 years, we saw those appointing 2,000 essays, etc. And these are people they don't know. We had an event at the Hilton, yeah, some 4 years ago, 3 years ago, no, 4. And one young man came, spoke with me and all of that, introduced himself, happened to be from my state. And he was one of the special assistants to the governor then, and he said he was looking for something to do. I said to the governor, what? He said, you know, that he lives in Lagos instead of his own state. He gets 250,000 a month. What do you do for it? Nothing. And there are states who have several thousand. So you see, you mentioned leadership recruitment. Already the younger generation is being damaged. Because as you've made them essay, they are hoping and waiting for you to get them to become head of a parastatal. You don't understand the concept of service delivery. They understand privilege. They understand money without working for it. They understand income without sweat. And so you see the extent of the damage. But it must begin somewhere. When we adopt a fundamentally lamentational approach to our national crisis, we pretend that it fell from the sky. It didn't. People must, at their own individual level, also know that their local government chairman is answerable to them. Who is bothered? What was the budget? Which state was it? Kaduna, I think, announced, was it yesterday or day before yesterday? 10 billion to be shared among the local governments. Now divide that into the number of local governments in Kaduna State. I hope I'm correct. It's going. What will be the result? And as we speak, there are local governments in parts of the country where bandits have taken over. And you find maybe 100 million this month, 180 million, a local government where nobody lives. There's a local government chairman who probably lives in Abuja and is all over the country. So with that, you find that we say the youths are useless. They are not. They have mostly the wrong examples. The youths are like receptacles. What values you put into them is what will germinate. And the question is, what have we been putting into them? At the level of our own behavior, then at the level of our use of their own platforms. NANS has been taken over for over 30 years. There's hardly any year in the last 25 years you didn't have 2 NANS presidents. Now that's National Association of Nigerian Students. Each of them uses SUV. On what income? These are the things to consider. And you then find that those who hold those positions are people who left the university long ago. In one instance, he was a lawyer of 43 years.
And they say masquerade as NANS
executive. Contestant. In one instance where myself and some friends tried to intervene, there were so many struggling. One was a married woman with 2 children sponsored by a politician who apparently had some business with her. None of them was a student, but to contest, you must be a student. So if I want to contest now, I go to university and register for a postgraduate diploma, get an ID card. Oh, the damage is there. Then Nigerian Youth Council. Anyway.
You know, I've heard politicians come on the program and then they tell us that, look, they hear what some people say, but when they do get out there to maybe when that electioneering process begins, and the impression, the mindset, what the people demand of them is just to, you know,
cash.
Yeah. And then they just wonder, look, as much as they may want to change, but that is our stark reality. So let me ask you, how easy or difficult do you think it is for us to at least begin to get it right, taking the right steps?
It is difficult, not impossible, because the bulk of the citizenry have been acculturated in the last 30 years, probably 40, to the wrong paradigms. If I am announced a minister today, if you announced a minister, or if she's announced a minister, most of those who will approach you for financial support will be your siblings, your relatives, your friends. And if you're not performing, they'll say, why are we unfortunate? He came to our turn and she started talking about one Nigeria. This is our turn to eat. So you then find these are the people you say are saying Nigeria is bad. But they're investing in everything that will make Nigeria impossible to rescue. And I'll cite 2 examples from, well, I'll just limit it to one of my former bosses, the late Ojo Maduekwe. When he asked me to be his special assistant, I declined. He said, why? I said, just give me some 3 months to think and pray about it. He said, what, 3 months? Do you know this is Minister of Transport? You know what it means to be? I said, sorry, sir, I didn't apply for a job. You're the one who called me, and I am impressed with the listing, but I need to, because one wrong step in life, that's your undoing. You say it's opportunity, but it's not yours. It's not your calling. You're just thinking of going to make money, which will probably make you eat a lot and acquire elements you didn't need to. I need impact. I need value. I'm a teacher. I need to understand you, sir. For a simple reason, if I'm your special assistant, I must obey you implicitly. That means I must understand your nature. If, for instance, you send me to kill somebody, I will not obey you as your special assistant. Would you bust out like, hey, you know, my friend, you're painfully honest. You're standing, 2 of us are sitting here, and you're saying I could be a murderer. You know, we laughed it off. But now, Ojo went to his church. There was this ceremony, and they were raising money. Here in Abuja, he donated 50,000. Pastor took a mic and said, no, this is not an honorable minister. Respect this and that. Ojo went back, took the microphone, and said, people like you don't belong on the pulpit. It's people like you who get public officers into trouble. It's somebody like you that should query me if I get more than this, because you know my salary. He couldn't be restrained. That's Ojo. He faced the same thing in his community. That's actually what led to my agreeing, because then it was on when he had that initial discussion, and I learned he was going for Christmas. He invited me. I said I would go with him. So the community invited him and queried him. You'll be Minister of Transport for so and so number of months. We are not feeling it here. We just said, well, if federal minister is to concentrate on his village, he will concentrate on Nigeria and all of that. Now, what am I leading up to? Except you have a large number of public office holders who face national interest. You're not going to re-educate the people on their expectations. And for as long as you make those concessions, the demands will increase. If it is true that there was a time people were not making such concessions, it means that something changed.
Are the professionals making it difficult by not putting themselves up for office?
Yes and no. Many professionals are theoretically intelligent, but they don't understand the political economy or the operating environment. They are good with policy. They don't understand the terrain. A policy cannot give you a good society except you manage the human capital from the angle.
They need to be in there to understand it.
They're already handicapped, unfortunately. You see, when you are educated and you believe you have the solutions, you can type it out on your laptop. Remember my area of work, and you know the kind of people. You attend a meeting and you know that this committee will deliver nothing because everybody is convinced he has the solution. And they have no idea what's going on outside the room where we are meeting. You cannot grow an iroko tree and then carry it to Bayelsa State to plant. The soil will not hold it. It will drop. So policy is good. Knowledge of political economy is even more important. And I'll cite an example. I want to give water to my village, my town, and there's plenty of money to do that. I come down, look at it. 3 points of, borehole will serve the community instead of them going for two hours to fetch water from the stream. And I announce it, I'm very excited, but I'm the one excited. I'm thinking of alleviating poverty and suffering. I haven't studied the political environment. I haven't studied the terrain, no terrain analysis. And as I'm talking, the traditional ruler is nodding. And after I leave, all these boys who just come from Abuja and Lagos, Unknown to me, there are 3 people who sell water using tankers in the village, and they make a return of 150,000 to him every week. Now, how do you think they'll be feeling as I'm talking? Those 3 people, not to talk of the traditional ruler. Now, if I'm a policy person, and I have on that, I do terrain analysis, I find out their interests. I can actually go into a conversation. Okay, this is what I want to do. I know this is where you people sell, and my plan is to do 3 to reduce this thing. But that's shutting down your business, so let's talk. because I don't want our people to continue to suffer. You go to the traditional ruler. Now, if you don't have capacity for this kind of legwork, Timberland, stay away from politics. So that's why you find those who talk policy, who they want to become president. Fantastic idea. They have the right ideas to make Nigeria. They forget that it's people who will vote. They forget that if you're from Katsina State, somebody in Bayelsa needs to know who you are. If you're from Abia State, somebody in Ogun needs to know who you are. But when you talk in an auditorium containing a massive 250 people, Chamberlain, and they clap and you say Nigeria is listening to you, you can get the point. But a brilliant person who moves into politics must get himself policy-savvy people. They give him sound policies, he knocks it into the shape where he can walk in the terrain, fantastic outcomes. But for them to come, they will spend most of the time lecturing you and telling you how it's happening in the Netherlands. This is not the Netherlands.
I mean, it's interesting that you brought that up, really.
Because I should be the one defending policymakers. That's my line of work.
Here's the problem, though.
There's a
lot of people who are educated, and it's not okay. You did mention one of the areas of concern, which is lack of knowledge of not being able to really read the ground and be able to enter their policy-wise and do what's right. But there's also the fear that our system is so corrupt that there is no way, no matter your best intentions, no matter the amount of knowledge you have, there's no way you can survive as a person who wants to be an honest person, who wants to serve their country truly. It's impossible for you to do that in this terrain.
It's not impossible. You must know what to give in order to take something. If you get into a school where nobody baits at all the children are stinking, and you demand 100% excellent dressing, ironing and all of it, start by they should wash their hands. Hygiene. And they've been trekking, wash your hands, wash your feet, and clean your mouth. Basic. Then you move on to shirts. You see, if you don't have patience for leadership, you want to do something and shine. First 100 days in office, you tarred roads and all that. Don't insult us. That's not development, that's infrastructure. The quality of the human person is what defines the state. So it's not impossible. This can be done. I'll cite two examples. One was, when Peter was governor, there was this, we were 1 a.m. He said, okay, come and see how much I've saved today. Because when he gets a file, he will check the unit cost, check the total. Check the unit cost. If it's too high, he will call people in the market. So they realize that they will give him the correct unit cost, knowing he verifies, and then give a wrong total. He will also check that. After calculating, maybe you put about 14.7 million, he finds out it's 9.3. He will write 9.3, approved. He say, look, why don't you disincentivize this thing? Some of them can be arrested. He said, no. See, if you want to sleep and there are too many rats in your house, it's the fish they want. Don't use a wooden basket, use the metal this thing. Once you're sure they won't take your fish, sleep. So a leader must have the capacity to take the appropriate measures. You can never have even 80% compliance. Not in the US, not anywhere on earth. But it's for the system to be able to function despite the human frailties you have around it. It's doable.
There are good examples at the moment, one of which we highlighted last time, Professor Batanagi's geometric power. So he had tried for 20 years. Eventually, we did ask him, what's the ideal time? He said 3 years, meaning any governor can come in and do that in one term.
Yes.
Not necessarily waiting for 2 terms. So how do we leverage or somewhat mainstream those kinds of achievements and ensure that people like that, because he could have given up. He had opportunity.
But see, 20 years, that's enough for anybody. So it is resilience. That's again the quality of leadership I had. Those older men know that when the environment is not mature, you don't give up and then go around as a motivational speaker, telling people, oh, they are not listening to us. Please go and sit down. There are a lot of other people who can be listened to. Develop the capacity to engage. Don't go around moaning and telling us about policies. Look at how you're treating those who are working with you. If that were to be Nigeria, will those people say they're happy if you ask them honestly behind your back? So Batanaji is a good example. That Conde, what he did in 4 years, I don't know any governor who did it in 8 years.
And I understand he operated from his own house.
That's it.
The funds were...
State funds.
He built
schools.
Things by...
For which there weren't enough money, but there was a population. He built it. He didn't have wall. I taught him one of them in
But
Lagos.
it doesn't seem to appeal to a lot of people, even though they claim that, yeah, we stick with his ideals.
But he doesn't seem to.
No. So a lot of people don't seem... That doesn't appeal to some politicians. They just, you know, paper over cracks.
You see, there is no reason why you should appeal to them. You have a man who spends very little money to achieve big results. He's a bad example when you want to steal. That's why somebody, a governor, will build brand new schools and commission it at 4.2 billion investment in education. That's infrastructure. You didn't employ any new teachers. You didn't provide teaching aids. Your enrollment for WAEC is less than 300. I didn't say 3,000 in a state. And you've learned, so that kind of thing. So, yes, the Jacondes may not appeal among many others, but the point to note is that we need a progressive rebirth of the culture of leadership if we're going to rescue Nigeria. We've traveled too far on the wrong road, but it's reversible. If there's leadership that says, no, I won't take this, that's what will happen.
All right, we'll explore this a little further when we return in just a moment. Don't go away.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Prof, it's good to see you again. One of the things that naturally came to me from some of the issues that you raised is that of political rhetorics. You know, it's so easy for people to go with whatever they hear any politicians or any leaders say, particularly those in the opposition to any government. Even this government, when it was in opposition, all kinds of rhetorics that more or less riled people against the government of the day. And part of that, a number of people would say, is responsible for the diminished level of trust in government at both the federal and state levels. So how should people react to political rhetorics, particularly those that are squarely focused at demarketing whichever government is in power, be it at the federal or state levels? How do people sift between politics and knowledge that they need to make informed decisions?
The average person to sift, because he gets his information from gossip mostly and from did you hear? So at that platform, at that level, there's very little anybody can do. But you see, you also have what you call information power centers. If government communication is focused and consistent, as you are aware, the Federal Ministry of Information has offices across all the local governments. And back in those days, information dissemination about government activities emanated from those platforms. If that is happening, what you will then find is those who are saying, oh, government said this, I don't believe, I don't know. But when government communication is not doing that well, then that's what happens. Now, concerning the opposition or those trying to demarcate the government, in this matter of political communication, jobs are created. The business of the opposition is not to make the government it wants to replace look good. The APC did a fantastic job of opposition, totally demarketed the PDP, made it look ridiculous in every way, unfortunately without being sufficiently informed itself. So in the process of that opposition, he was making claims, which anybody who understood elementary economics will know that they had no idea what they were talking about, $1 to 1 naira, etc. But the point to note is that they were effective. The question to then ask is the current opposition as effective? The answer is no. Whether you talk Labour Party or PDP, who are in the front row of the opposition, they are not as effective as one would have expected. There's nothing like the shadow cabinet from them. What you hear is press releases, pointing out one thing or the other that's wrong with the policy of government. None of them seems to realize that they ought to hold quarterly rallies to create a cohesion among themselves. If you take, for instance, if you look at the PDP, for instance, there's a disposition towards who should we exclude. It's the same people still active. If you look at the age bracket, that will worry you. You look at Labour Party nearly got the presidency based on reputation of one individual and not the party itself. Is that party building itself today? My perception is that the answer is no. Obedience being woven into a cohesive group with a central message, the answer is no. They believe in one Nigeria correctly. They believe P2B would have made a fantastic president. I share that view. But are they preparing for the environment in which they are, which means that you must have somebody in every polling booth to represent you? The answer is no. Are they raising money to create? So, looking at all, it's nice to speak in the media, but you must ask yourself, the media you're using, what is this access? So, first, there's fake news, no question about that, due to general misinformation. Then there's deliberate disinformation by those who want a particular point of view to go out. We can't cry about that. Now, imagine that the government is communicating and the opposition is communicating, all of them effectively. What will then be laid before the Nigerian citizen is alternative points of view to evaluate and decide which one to accept. But when that communication, for instance, is not as clear, I think back to, I was a boy, yes? Mbakwe was governor of Imo State, the old Imo State. Collins Obi lost to him. And practically every night on the TV, because one TV belonged to, I think, Abba, or where it was government TV, the opposition had Abba. Every night there's this address telling us how terrible the government, it gets wearying, it's tiring. Everything somebody is doing can't be bad just because you're not on his side. So there has to also be improvement in the quality of opposition communication. Their press releases are too long. They are saying practically, if you take all their releases and since Tinubu became president, you find that there's not less than 60% of what they said before being repeated. And you think by that thing, which nobody really reads, by such incestuous communication, that is addressing yourself as a target of your information output, you're going to become a new government.
Incestuous,
the places where you are.
My apologies.
Yeah.
Incestuous.
I think unconsciously so.
I think that is really what I'm one of the things, one concern. It is one thing to demarcate the government. It's another thing for that image to spill and smear the country itself. Where can we, is there a balance?
There ought to be a balance because if you're in opposition and you're saying the government is not doing well, you have the further duty of saying what the government could have done better. When you do that, even the man looking at you from outside will say, oh, this person has the right idea, this party. You know, from the opposition, we see they know what to do. But when you make it your business to limit yourself to just saying everything bad about your country, question, is there any nation that doesn't have something bad about it? The answer is no. And that's where I think, and I believe the National Orientation Agency is trying to do something about that. That's why I think that activists, some NGOs and all of that, they need some level of enlightenment on national interest communication. When you concentrate only, you can always find something bad in a situation. And that's what you do. And of course, you find that some of them are not really activists, but cash activists. They get paid to be active. And so they make all the speeches to make those who pay them happy. Those are some of the challenges. So when communication objective is unclear, what happens is that you keep talking to be heard without asking yourself because all those who talk to them, give them any responsibility and see what they will make of it. How are they running their own organizations, even if it's made up of 15 people? So that government has also, any government, is not about any government, has to also know how to be bullish and aggressive in communication without being rude or impudent. Evidence-based counter-communication would make all the difference.
Absolutely. Well, the people that we need to communicate with more now than ever before are young people. We had this interview with the president of the AFDB, who identified that not just in Nigeria, but in Africa, something in the region of 60, 65%, if not more, are young people below the age of 35, he said. Now, if we bring that home to Nigeria, then we need to be more strategic in how we communicate with these people because, as you said, how many people even read press releases these days, even if it is online? So what would be your proposition of strategically communicating with these young people? Because according to, from what Dr. Adesina said, the people who are going to be paying taxes in the future are these young people. And if we don't build them now, invest in them now, then there is no one to pay the taxes in the future. So how do we strategically communicate a united Nigeria, a peaceful Nigeria, a progressive Nigeria, a possible visionary Nigeria to the young people who are largely disillusioned right now about their country?
Yeah, my first take would be to say that the trend is global, actually. The bulk of the global population is young. The second thing is that if you want to communicate a good Nigeria, a better Nigeria patriotism, start by telling them the truth. Start by admitting that Nigeria is not looking too good right now. Start by pointing out that some of the activities of our leaders will make us less patriotic, beginning with our local government chairman. So your local government chairman got 150 million last month. Nothing happened. The month before, he got 161. Nothing happened. The one before, he got 98. Nothing happened. And you think your problem is coming from Abuja. So the young ones need to understand that the country is bad. Place the truth before them. Then also point out to them that they have also become victim of that, such that they're also more ready to go with somebody who is ready to give money than somebody who is not. The third thing is to ask yourself, what are the information centers patronized by the young people? If I go to Kano today and I want to talk to the people, market women, adults and all of that, and I get the mayor of Kano to agree to be in attendance in the town hall, just sitting down beside me, I've got 90% endorsement, because this stranger here, okay, Baba has come here, and he says, listen to this man. He's a power center. So the youths, they use the platforms, Instagram, all of that. On those platforms, there's no time for long speeches. I'm here to tell you this and that. At this juncture, I want to remind you that when the colonialists came, we know when they came. Tell us what you want to, preferably in very few sentences. My dear young people, all of you are angry. You have every reason to be angry. All of you are hungry. Yes, there's poverty in the land. But I tell you this, traditionally, hunger does not qualify everybody to eat. The person who works eats, but even work is difficult for you. So what do we do? Should we kill ourselves? I think you don't agree we should kill ourselves. There are some solutions I want us to think and talk about. You see, when you approach young people like that and you ask them for solutions, the first thing that happens is that their anger disappears, because every one of them thinks he has the solution. As they talk, they find themselves retired by one another. Sobriety and humility comes, and then the next thing is they are now looking for a final solution. Their ego. I work extensively with young people. I've done programs for state governments involving 5,000 and something youths for weeks. A young person believes he has the solution. For as long as he's not engaged, not frontal, he will not realize he needs to listen. Now you have fewer adults who know how to approach young people. That's part of the crisis. You also have fewer adults who, when they come to young people, think they need to hear anything from them. They just come there to tell them, give them lectures and tell them to be of good behavior. They don't understand their world. And so there's a permanent disconnect. Those platforms, I think this thing uses only 200 words, Twitter. Condense your message, put it out there, use the appropriate models, but more importantly, get them to meet. If there are diverse youth organizations and they have conversations, first they know each other, second they gain more knowledge. But when you call maybe, this group, you speak with them, they talk on TV, we are here, we are resolved to be patriotic young Nigerians, we are going to... Who are they in control of? Their membership is 201. So these silos, find their leaders. I've always said, has it occurred to anybody to have a conference of youth leaders? National youth leaders, not just youth leaders of political parties, youth leaders of town unions, youth leaders of religious organizations, and preferably none of them above the age of 35. Somebody older than me introduced himself as a youth leader of a political party. I didn't know what to say.
Okay, that's another conversation for another day entirely. But we have to thank you for coming out this morning, Professor. Okay.
Why are you thanking me? Are we done?
I don't want you to be done.
That's
No.
That's how time flies.
No, I have to take this baton. I'm claiming damages. I think you did something to my watch.
Well, yeah. You'll find somebody other than you talking about him being a youth leader very soon. Thank you for coming on. So we're back in a moment because, well, business is up next on the hour. So stay on with us.